Bitcoin continues to hover around the $80,000 mark, and the question is it a buy? And that's what we'll be discussing in today's video. Of course, yesterday we were looking for a bit of a short-term bounce, but today is a CPI day, so I suspect that there will be some volatile wicks coming up in your bunghole very soon, probably around U.S. market open. So we'll actually start off on the lower-term timeframes. Oh, and then we'll also be going over, or just reiterating, what I'm specifically looking for, not necessarily that it has to apply to you, take what's valuable to you and discard what's not, but what I'm looking for to enter into and be interested in long-term long positions. So first things first, on the lower term timeframes, it does look to me like Bitcoin is likely to test, around the lows again after we got yesterday's bounce with this hidden bearish divergence forming here on the 4-hour time frame. I wouldn't actually look at this exact read as playable, but I'd want to see it also on the 6-hour time frame, which is certainly possible if Bitcoin does close below the last 6-hour low, which is about $81,500 on this next 6-hour time frame. If you see that, very likely Bitcoin does get another run at these lows, somewhere a little bit below $80,000, whether that be 78.5 or 79, I don't fucking know, but that would offer up the potential for one of these 3 drives plays to the downside, and then an actual bounce, like a big bounce, something a little bit deeper into the $80,000 territory, as yesterday's bounce got arrested right around $84,000 and sent to crypto jail. No, you get what I mean. Anyways, this is all secondary to the higher term time frame stuff, obviously. And, because today is an event, I do want to state that, lower term time frame analysis is highly subjective and can very easily be massively wrong. But that's kind of what I'd be looking at from here. The sort of classic play would be around, around US Open when that CPI read comes available. You see a quick move down, retest that low, and then bounce up aggressively out of it. If you see something like that, that'd be a pretty damn good signal to me. But until then, we shall wait. And like I said, this is all secondary to the higher term timeframe stuff. So first, we'll actually bring it over here to a little bit of hopium. The 8-hour timeframe for MetaSignals actually fired off a trade here that was opened at just over $81,000. Target number 1 has, I think it's basically been hit right there. Yeah. Target number 1 at 83.750, which is a very, very high probability target. Again, you can get these setups sent to you, or not sent to you, but you can just get alerts for them if you join the link in the description below for MetaSignals. Of course, target number 1 was already hit, so that's a high probability one, but a little bit late to that if you're just waiting for these videos. Target number 2 is significantly higher, this one having close to a 50% strike rate, and that is just under $90,000. Now, if Bitcoin were to pop back up above there, that to me would be quite compelling, especially for the medium term. But for right now, do be aware that the easy portion of this one's already been hit, and like I always say with MetaSignals and the quantum wave bands, because they do operate in a similar fashion, not in like their actual strategy, but just in the way that you should interpret it. Look at these setups as like bumper rails. They give you some guidelines as to what to be looking for. I think in a lot of these cases, you could probably optimize the stop loss and the entry, but yeah, again, just at face value, that target one, it does get hit more often than not. Certainly more than 50%. So yeah, anyways, moving on, we should also go over the daily time frame. The daily time frame does still have potential for bullish divergence here. Even if Bitcoin were to retest around that low, even if it came down today to $78,500, as long as Bitcoin is below, is above yesterday's low, it is going to have a chance to actually confirm some regular bullish divergence here. It would only be 2 drives, which in my experience, it's not 2 drives that typically produces reversals, although it certainly does produce bounces, but that's kind of what we've already gotten. It's 3 drives that typically does produce, the major reversal. So that is why I am hesitant to just blindly look at this and say, hey, this is a great buy right here, and it's going to be going to the moon and beyond. Yeah, for a bounce, of course, but we already discussed that yesterday. So in this case, if Bitcoin were to come back down to the lows, kind of close to there, maybe even slightly below, but ultimately that would give the possibility for 3 drives of bullish divergence. And at that point, I really would be looking for a big bounce and probably even a reversal if that were to happen. But that's, again, very, very far away from here. Also, on the topic of is Bitcoin a buy, I would say that for the more aggressive people, something is quite obvious here, and, perhaps it's relevant to you. So I'll just call it out. I'll get rid of everything else that is not relevant to this conversation. And we're only looking at two different moving averages here. One of them being that white moving average, which is a 200 simple, and the blue moving average, which is a 377 exponential moving average. Very high period moving averages here. And the sort of picture that I want to be showing you is that anytime price action has been between these two moving averages, while the white was above the blue, so that's the bullish posturing, these have been great, bounce zones or just amazing buy zones during bull markets. This is where Bitcoin also bottomed out in 2021 during the summer. We saw it actually last summer as well, in fact, and even a smaller extent one summer before that in 2023. You can see just visually looking at it, pretty much every move down into that region has at minimum produced a pretty big bounce, especially during bear market reversals. But in bull markets, that has been the area of interest for, the next major macro low. But as you can see in this last example right here, it can spend some time there. I mean, it's been more or less 3 months within this region, testing the bottom side of it several times and even getting wicks below. Again, wicks below are fine. Just don't want to see, significant closures below. But in this case, that gives us a range, an area of interest between $83,500 to the upside versus 75.5 to the downside. So, I would be still looking for this range to kind of play out in general over the medium term here, or sorry, not medium, but more shorter term. But that is also going to be combined with another thing that does suggest that, hey, if you are bullish on Bitcoin long term, then this is not the worst area to be interested in for a long-term position. Although, again, I personally am not of that. I don't look at this as playable personally, and I'll explain why later. But the 5-day HPDRO, again, representing directional volatility, which we've referenced many times in the past couple of weeks here, is once again at the same regions that we have seen bull market lows come in from. Whenever we've seen the HPDRO on the 5-day time frame, which just got a new update last night, by the way, these reads have been very consistent, either around the price low or pretty much on the price low for all of these corrections in a bull market. Now, I should note here that there is something different with this current iteration. It is lower than all previous ones from this current cycle. And generally, we don't really see it go much lower than that region, unless if it's a bearish cycle, which is what you see over here. So, I'd still be looking for this to turn up. It is not turned up just yet. So I do still look at this as not immediately playable or anything like that. But if it starts to get a positive slope here, I'd be looking at that as a good indication that it will operate in the same fashion as the ones that we've seen over the past couple of years, marked by these red vertical bars, again, correlating to a lot of these major lows. So again, just another thing that suggests, hey, if you are long-term, if you still think that the bull market is on, then this area, theoretically is quite good. On top of that, I did want to follow up on this as well, global liquidity. People seem to love this chart. I think it's very much popular by Raoul Pal. And, it does have its uses, of course. I mean, it has mirrored price action quite well. Anyways, the global liquidity index, which typically leads price action for spot Bitcoin, or just most markets, I guess, is continuing to expand here. Again, we just got another 5-day closure last night, and this one continues with upwards liquidity increases, if you want to call it that, more or less at the same prior all-time high from September of 2024. So as long as this continues to expand, generally, I don't want to be leaning into a bear market, or at least my personal opinion is that I don't want to be looking for like a full-on bear market. In this case, of course, Bitcoin coming down like 30-35%, like that is, certainly a massive correction. But as long as this is continuing upwards and onwards in an uptrend fashion, it's better to be betting, at least in my experience, on further upside, or at least not looking for like the big catastrophic move to the downside. Not that I'm opposed to it or anything like that. But for right now, as long as, that condition is present amongst many other things that we've looked at as well, it makes me hesitant to get like full on bear boner, which I love. I love getting full on bear boner. But anyways, let's see. Okay, so I've been painting a nice picture here on the medium time frame, suggesting that, hey, if you are bullish on Bitcoin, this region essentially between the 200 simple and the 377 is likely a good do long term. However, it should still be known, and I still want to continue to update on this, that all higher term timeframe stochastic momentum is positioned to the downside. So if Bitcoin is going to break down, you actually are going to be looking, if you are bearish on Bitcoin, you're looking for it to break down sooner rather than later. The longer that Bitcoin goes sideways here, especially if Bitcoin bounces as well, like has a real bounce, the more and more likely that that's not going to play out. But for right now, the ball is in the bear's court, and we do have a catalyst coming up later today. So if things do want to break down, this would be the setup for it. Daily stochastic momentum is headed to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below 87,750, which it is well below right now. The 2-day time frame is also going to be, actually this one could potentially cross the upside today if Bitcoin does close above 80,000 bucks on CME, right now trading almost 2,000 bucks above that pivot. So looking so far so good, but again, with an event later, that can change very fucking fast. 3-day time frame also showing downside below 87.8. 5-day time frame also going to be showing downside as long as Bitcoin's below 102 and change. Weekly time frame also down as long as Bitcoin's below 100. 10-day time frame also down as long as Bitcoin's below 97. Bi-weekly time frame also down as long as Bitcoin's below 100, and monthly also down as long as Bitcoin's below 102. That would be my bear case, honestly. Like all of those things on the same side, usually price is going to, follow through in that direction. But like I said, I'm holding on personally to a few points of hopium, although I don't, again, look at it as playable right now. In my opinion, it's not for more aggressive people. Sure, you're free to do whatever the fuck you want to do. But at the end of the day, I'm not interested until one of two things happens. The first one is the most obvious and easy one. If Bitcoin trades back above the March high of about 95,000 bucks, I'm bullish. That is your sort of bull trap region off of this sell-off. So, reclaiming that would be rather significant. Now, the other way I could be interested in, long-term long positions is if we get two of these next conditions met. One would absolutely have to be the hash ribbons indicator printing a blue buy signal. As of right now, it does not have that. In fact, you can see that the signal line is starting to diverge now more from the plot line, or I guess I kind of got that backwards, but they're diverging more importantly. And as long as they're divergent, there is no buy signal possible for this at all whatsoever. And even when it does print, it's not an immediate call to action to buy. Again, at least in my opinion, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, but I'd want to see that accompanied by one of two other things. I think the first thing is going to be the easier one, which is going to be bullish divergence, with which Bitcoin certainly does have a potential to put in the not so distant future. Or the other one would be a silver cross to the upside on the daily. So that would be the 21 crossing above the 55 exponential moving averages here, which again, these are diverging. So obviously, bull divergence on RSI is probably going to be more reasonable here to wait for. But ultimately, I'd want to see all of these things kind of ticked off. And that's where I would say, hey, Bitcoin's bullish again, get ready for 100,000 plus. But until then, it is kind of in a period of limbo here. I can definitely see this. I can definitely see the allure for long-term people within this region right here. If you're thinking about holding 5, 10, 15 years, again, for my very long-term holds, I actually did buy some in here around 80,000 bucks. Is that going to be wrong? Do I live underwater for a little bit of time? Sure, very possible. But again, I'm thinking 10 years down the road, realistically. So, maybe that's applicable to you. Maybe it's not applicable to you. But with all of that said, I do want to again highlight the importance of today's later event, the CPI, because you will see extremely likely some nasty price action there. So, that can be both wicks to the upside and wicks to the downsides. But again, be aware of where things actually do change around for Bitcoin to the upside. On a straight move to the upside, again, no change as long as Bitcoin's below that March high of 95, and to the downside, as long as Bitcoin's above that 377, that blue moving average on a closing basis. it's probably going to be around your lows. So that's where we'll end things for today. We'll come back at it tomorrow, update some more with all of the new information that we do get. And as always, I want to remind you that if you find this content valuable or meaningful, or even if you hate it, consider like subscribing as it gets these videos into your inbox each and every day, which I, of course, update my thoughts each and every day if you find that of value. All right, that's where we'll end it. As always, wish you the best of the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.